had intended for today was an exercise following up the last week exercise to just map out a little bit about the things that we spoke. But the question, we can start with the question and then we can see if someone else join and we get into this. So the question for today is, what is a question you wish you will get asked more often? Nate, do you want to start?
Ooh, a question that I wish I got asked more often. I guess it would revolve around. I don't know. I guess it would revolve around like the ultimate, big picture stuff within the TEC and public goods in general. It's just something that I've been thinking about for a very long time, and I have a lot of thoughts and critiques and ideas and so on. And so I think that's a fun area that I wish I was asked more questions about. But
Will
yeah.
you say an example?
Yeah, just kind of, evaluating like the augmented bonding curve as like a resource system and applying it to Ostrom's principle, I think is really interesting to do, a really interesting exercise. And so if we look at it from that perspective, having kind of like, and applying it to the TEC, like, for example, looking at the TEC as strictly as a token economy and not something that needs to be like necessarily managed. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of complexity there, but I think that the way we have things organized right now can be a lot different than working groups, and so I just think there's different structures that we can explore that actually focus on the economy, the TEC economy, rather than having like this traditional organizational setting. But yeah,
I got
I could speak all day on it, but like yeah, just don't want to
no worries.
diverge. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
How about you, Shui?
So a question I wish I get asked more often. Um, Sometimes, especially when I'm very, very like diving deep into like a topic or a project, um, like from time to time, I come across people that ask me like, "How are you?" And it's like, "Oh, it's like awesome with all of these things like like going on, and I'm very excited about this personal project." And from time to time, like I come across people that like take the question beyond that, and it's like, no, but how are you? Like, not what you're doing, and it's like this reminder of we are not like necessarily what we like do. And I've been reflecting on that a lot lately. So I wish I just get asked that more often, because it like sometimes it really really caught me like off guard, and it's interesting to be in that position and to ask like myself, like, am I really like doing good? Like, do I have like what I need in like a most like in a more like human level? So yeah, I wish I could have it be asked that more often. And yeah, like about a more uh, general like question in like regarding um, the agenda. Well, I was just talking to you about it, Edu. Like, I'm trying to find a way in which I can like detach, like some of the incentives that are tying us to the community with a very, very like unbiased and neutral idea or initiative to have a discussion about like what are the best decisions that we can take. I feel those are some new grounds, and I'm very excited to explore those. But not only in a practical level, but also in a more like community and emotional level. I don't know if emotional is the word that I was looking for, but yeah, like see pretty much like how everyone feels about these changes in a more like transparent and just honest way. I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, I agree with you, Shui. And I would like a combination between your question and Nate. Like in my case, I wish we will get like ask more often how we are or how are we as an organization, as an individual, as a public good or as an economy. Like I feel like it's a very simple. Like we tend to ask this on communities. Like every 2 weeks, we ask the how are you, but really how are you? And but on the community level, I feel like we sometimes are into automatic mode, and this question sort of it's a stopper. It helps you to sort of you know go back to the centered, or at least have a little bit of perspective. And I feel like we don't ask that question quite enough, and sometimes we just roll until something stops us. And I feel that's a question I would like to get asked more often. Like how are we, how are our working groups in a more human level? Even it has many layers. You could ask this on a human level, on a professional level, on an organizational level. But in any matter, I feel like that's we will catch so many things if we just ask that question. That's how I feel. So we don't have enough quorum, I feel. So I will, if even I don't know if you agree with these guys, we can leave this exercise for next week. So I will just explain it, and if you want to provide feedback, it will be more than helpful. So this is the result of last week petals analysis that we did, and I categorized what everyone mentioned based on three aspects: if it is a working group, if it is a process, or if it is a tool. And I add the label TE for the sake of understanding if it's something that focuses on token economics specifically. And the idea of this would be to sort of Livy mentioned the idea of having more questions regarding this. For example, if we all know what game theory is, if we all agree, if we all understand what does this means within this pedal, and for example, if the names of the pedals are correct, if we need to change it, if you think it established a good name for that. And then at the end, there was this question of we selected three um, like disciplines that we think we should add to the TEC: identity and demography, linguistics and semantics, and history. But the question will be where in these pedals these three categories will fall, and how we can have these categories or these sciences represented on the TEC. Does it make sense, Nate, for example?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I really like that. I guess one of the things that I like been thinking about with this exercise, which I think is a really, really important exercise to do, is not only like labeling what they are and where they fall underneath, but like what are the source, like who is responsible for producing these processes and who's responsible for providing those tools, and really looking at like how many if there's only like a small handful of developers providing the tools, and the majority of the community falls into only like one category. I think that's something to look at and analyze and say, hey, maybe we should be getting more vehicles for participating in these different categories that don't allow um, like we can have like industrial and system engineering, and most of the people there are going to be the developers are contributing. But what about the people who design and help with like the administration of industrial and systems engineering and things of that nature? And so like there's not really a place for those people in these categories. And so I don't know, I think there's certain demographics of people where we could have better vehicles for them to participate in, and not feel so kind of forced into one of these boxes or another, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. What about you, Shui? Any feedback regarding this?
Yeah, I also feel that, like in a similar way as Nate was saying, I feel that communications could be approached maybe in a more what's the word I was looking for? Like pedagogical level, like in a more like modeled like after an like an educational model, for example. I feel that like this is clear in some of the message that we want to give, but I feel that even though it's like the the flower itself, I feel that it could um let's say like elaborate a little bit more about how we are telling this message. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's just something that I've been also thinking about lately.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we want to do. So if this is the flower or the traditional flower, I remember this what Juanca provided. You know, like if you see this on the screen, you will see that there's like two, but if you put them together, it becomes one. So the idea is to do something very similar with this flower, which is to update it and then have layers. And then within these layers, you will have who is the people who is working on this, maybe names, maybe working groups, or what is the way to access them. Maybe it's a call, maybe it's a Discord, maybe I don't know. So the idea will be to sort of map out and identify, for example, if we see that on there is a case here on psychology and decision science. We have way more things in psychology and decision science than in cryptography, just to say as an example. So we can sort of, sort of have a global view about what's going on, and at the same time be more conscious about where the efforts should be put on and who are the people who are putting this effort on, if there is any. Um, but we will leave the yeah. So I don't know if that makes sense to Nate.
It does, yeah. I just realized that's a huge pedal that we're missing is education, and I'm not sure why I didn't
Yep.
think of putting that down, but education should for sure be on that pedal.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
Shui, anything else?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yes, I agree. I feel that education could be it. Like even like what answers this question about how we are communicating what we want to say. Um, yeah, yeah. I feel education also gives a great place in a very specific purpose to, like, for example, everything around Token Engineering Academy. Um, yeah, yeah. Education is definitely another pedal.
And I will say, for example, show your own section, branding and marketing, is not also in the flower, and you cannot have an economy. I mean, you can have an economy, but there's a small in all projects there's a small effort put into marketing and branding at least, and that is not also included in the economic system. Like it doesn't like you just create a product and the product will brand itself naturally. You know that doesn't happen. Like or you create a product and the product doesn't need any marketing. That doesn't happen. That you don't create a token economic system without spreading the word about it, I believe.
Yeah, like even I mean it's probably like a more broad pedal, but communications just by itself, I feel cover branding, marketing, and it could be like next to the education one because I do feel that it's like it's something now that you put it that way, Edu, but yeah, like communications in general is just like how do we take the rest of these pedals and tell something about it. Yeah, kind of like a so what follow-up question.
Correct. All right. Okay, there is some work to do. If any of you guys want to do some thoughts on this async on this labeling, there is certain confusion for me regarding, for example, if like there are certain areas that overlap in between each other, and then, for example, if this is a classification that it's good, for example, a process, a tool, or a working group, meaning more of a one is a process, one is a technological tool, and the other one is a human kind of process or framework. Even they added a label framework for some of these things. For example, reward system and praise is not only a tool, but it's also a token engineer system, but it's also a framework because it has a culture on it. So if you want to provide any feedback on the document and any suggestion of how we can classify this, I think probably rather than tools, processes, and TE will be more something around cultural layer, governance layer, or like a broader contextualization that is easier to understand. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that async. I think that I guess I'm just trying to is this purely a reflective exercise, or is there like kind of an end goal to this? Just
Oh
adding it
yeah,
to the flower.
there is an end goal to this. So um, the the idea to part of that when we started the onboarding process, we were only focused on the beginning of the user journey. So the idea would be to expand, and now in the second term of Communitas, if the proposal pass is to focus on the entire journey because the onboarding is already sort of finished. And in order to achieve that, we want to provide a whole overview about the community to anyone who joins, and during their journey on the TEC, just having very clear what are the spaces that exist. And for that, we will have a bot that will be the roles bot, and you will pick your area of interest. And the idea is that we will base the areas of interest based on the flower. So starting from that point, we will sort of expand sort of a sort of a narrative regarding this flower and the token engineer and how it's applied here. Does that make sense, Nate?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I also really like the approach about people picking like their own roles instead of expecting them. I feel like just like onboarding wise, that changes the game.
Yeah, but in order for us to do that, we need to first sort of map out the community. And we thought that using collective intelligence with the TE flower that already exists, it was going to be the sort of the more consensus, smarter way to approach it. Any feedback regarding this is welcome, of course. But yeah, all right. We will. I have nothing else I would like to talk. Is there something you guys would like to discuss or talk? If not, we can close early.
No, I think I'm good. Appreciate that.
All right. I see, Shui, that you are unmuted, but there's no audio coming.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say the same thing as Nate. That thanks for this call.
All right. Thank you guys for joining, and I will see you next Tuesday. It's Wednesday. Take care.
Bye, yeah, you
Later,
too.
man. Bye,
See you
bye,
next.
Drew.